now so that if other people want to have a look, they can. So yeah, so that's what is a sprue. And the first what I wanted to draw is, where do we attach the sprue? So if this was my model, could you attach the sprue for me? Where would you put it?
Is it the thickest part?
Yes, 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 perfect, Alan. Yeah.
This is funny.
A few people are saying they're having trouble joining just now.
Oh, okay. Let me see. Participants. I've got nobody in the wait room. Who's asking to join? Will I come off? I'll come off.
I think it's Jay, and Kirsty was saying she couldn't find the link, but I've just shared it from the older email into the group chat.
Okay, let me, where are we? Let me stop share. Let me just see if anyone comes in a sec. See if that's... Ah, there's Jay. I'll just give it a few minutes quick, see if anyone else comes. I'm glad that you guys managed to work the whiteboard. That's good. On Tuesday, we couldn't work out. It was just me that was drawing.
You mean you're going to ask us to work as well as just watch? Well,
I know that not everybody likes to talk to me on here. So I thought if people don't want to talk, that's fine. But if you want to draw, then means I know that people are still there. Otherwise, I sometimes feel like I'm talking to myself. Right, I'll put it back on. Yeah, so here we were. This was my model, and Alan was exactly right. Where I would put the sprue was here. As Emma said, we want to put it at the thickest part of the model, and we want to avoid putting it where any texture is. So like at the top, this we would say is textured, and if I put a sprue on there, it would take away the texture. So putting it on the side is a good shout for that one. Then if I had a model that looked like this, where would I put a sprue? It's a bit of a trick question. Oh, that's Kirsty coming. Kinda. Got any other thoughts? I'll go for yellow. So basically for this one, I'm actually going to need more than one sprue. So for more complicated models, I would put more sprues on. So this one, I would probably have a sprue attached at all part of the fingers, then joining down to like a central feeder sprue, which would attach to the tree. And at the bottom, this is to make sure that the metal was able to get to all parts of the model. So as I said before, like for this project, you guys are just handing me the models and I'll be doing the sprueing. So it's not something that you need to worry about this time round. But obviously, if you was working in wax again, you would be sprueing your own trees. So it's always worth like considering when you're doing the designing, whereabouts you would need to put a sprue or multiple sprues. So I was going to add a new page. Now I was going to talk about the sprueing up the wax tree. So to describe how we're sprueing the wax tree, we'd start off with our rubber base. So this red blob is our rubber base. And if we watch the videos, what do we do with the rubber base first before we start putting anything in it? Any thoughts? It is weighing it. So weights are thanks, Alan. Weights are really important here, and accuracy is important. So we want to weigh the rubber base so that we know that weight, so that we can then, when we've put all the trees in and the models in, then we can weigh the wax accurately. Once we've got an accurate wax weight, then we can get an accurate metal weight. So we can come back to that idea. But so this is our rubber base anyway, and this is our central sprue in the middle. Then what we want to do is to attach our models. So if we've attached them at an angle, that's our ring model. So the angle is really important here, about 30 to 45 degree angle, and that is all because of the flow of the metal. So that's our angle that we're going for. It essentially nothing's going to flow downhill. No, nothing's going to flow uphill. We're all thinking of the flow of the metal. Another bit that's important here is what we call our gates. So this bit here and this bit here is where the sprue attaches to the main tree and where the sprue attaches to the model. That's what we call the gate, and the gate, we would describe it as needing to be fully closed, and that again is because we need the flow of the metal. So when we're joining it like here to the main tree, like we can use like a smaller wax rod to like melt blobs onto it to make sure it's fully shut. More so when it's attached to the model, we want it to be like as clean a join as possible, because that will save us cleanup time in metal. It's always easier to clean up in wax because it's so soft. If it's got blobs on the model, then you're going to spend a long time filing that away. So that's the sprueing, and so just to add a new page, our tree. Our tree screwed up is going to have multiple models on it.
Don't know if you're covering your microphone, but your voice is a bit faint.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I was covering my microphone. Thank you. Yeah. So this is what it looks like. Looks like a bunch of Cheerios. The reason that we sprue it that way is because when it's in the casting machine, it's turned upside down. So if I just draw it, it can help make sense of why it looks like that. That's how it looks in the machine. So if you notice, it's all pointing downhill. So our angles are important here, because if we had a sprue that was attached like this here, it's not gonna flow. That's going against gravity. So it would be that sprue would be sprued incorrectly. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need any exit vents for the air to be sucked out, or is the material porous enough to actually do that?
No, we don't. As far as I'm aware, we don't need any vents on this. What we do once we've sprued the tree is to then invest it, like as is. So yeah, no vents is needed. Yeah, so we've got our tree all sprued up now, and now we would weigh it again so that we have our accurate wax weight. Once we've weighed it, then we're gonna invest it. So that was the second video that we watched, and so that is basically pouring an investment like, it's called investment. It's a plaster-like substance that surrounds all the model. So that's the rubber base and the tree, and I will be putting a flask around it. So covering it in a flask, surrounding it. Then I put like a plastic sleeve around it to make sure there's no leaks, all airtight, and pour the investment in it, and it completely surrounds the model. That sets within like 20 minutes. It's very fast setting. Before it sets, I would need to degas it, and that takes out all the bubbles so that it would make it a nice smooth cast. Then what I would do is then I pop my flask in the kiln. That's my flame. And that basically burns out all of the wax that's inside it. So those are all my waxes. That's upside down, actually. They're all my waxes. And that's now a completely empty cavity. So that's why it's called lost wax casting, is because the wax or organic material or 3D print or whatever it is that we're spruing up on the tree and putting in the kiln has been burnt away, and it's just an empty cavity that we're going to pour the metal into. So are we all with me? Is there any questions?
Oh, sorry.
Yes, keep going then.
Is it upside down when it goes into the kiln? And where does the metal enter? Because that's the thing that's confusing me when I'm looking at it.
Okay, so when it goes in the kiln, no, I would turn it around actually. So the flasks, if I just come off this a second, flip my camera around. How do I do that? There we go. These are the flasks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and these are the rubber bases.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what a rubber base looks like, and this is what it would look like with one sprue attached. So it will go in the flask, like it will be pushed in like that, pushed in properly, and then it would sit within it upside down.
Yeah.
So then when it's surrounded in investment, I'll be able to peel off the rubber base, and
Okay.
that would remove, and it would leave the wax inside.
Okay.
That way round.
Okay.
Does that make sense a little bit more?
Yeah.
Kind. Okay.
I did watch the video. I just wanted to see how I don't know. That's fine.
Yeah.
Thank
So, I mean, whilst we're here, those are the three sizes of flask. As you can see, they're different heights, but they are all the same diameter. So when we're giving you, what's the word? Like restrictions on the size of your model, it's because of the flask. So it can be no bigger than this. And when we're investing, we need to leave like a 10 to 20 mil gap around the outside and at the top, so that we've got a thick enough investment wall so that the metal doesn't like burst out the sides.
Yeah.
So that's why there's sort of restrictions with it. But yeah, so if to go back on to the whiteboard, so that is the sort of described. Oh, shall I turn my, hold on. I'll turn my face around. Sorry. So that's described the sprueing and the investing. So then and also the burnout. So then to describe the casting, that the machine that we've got is a vacuum casting machine. So if you watch the video, it sort of looks like a sort of a spaceship or something. The casting machine looks a bit like this, and it has that window view at the top. So the top section of it is where the crucible will sit. So we've got a crucible here, and that is surrounded by heating elements, like a kiln. The crucible is basically a graphite cup, and the graphite cup holds the metal. So it's like surrounded by these heating elements, and that will melt the metal that is inside the cup to the temperature that I set the machine to be at. So the temperature will depend on the melting temperature of the specific metal that's going into it. So what we're doing is copper. So we will heat it to 1083 degrees to make it liquid. So then below in this bottom section is where we have got our flask. So we've got our tree in there like this. And that section is under a vacuum. So it's attached to a vacuum pump over here. And what the vacuum does is it helps to pull the molten liquid, the molten metal to all corners of the flask. So we've got our molten liquid in here, and when it's liquid, then I will pull the lever and it will release it down into the mold with the help of the vacuum to draw it to all of the corners. So that's essentially how it's done. And like I say, that machine is called a vacuum casting machine. That's what you would, if you're in sort of industry as such, you would, or in like if you were sending something to a jewelry casting house, they would more likely than not be using one of two, either a vacuum casting machine or a centrifugal casting machine. Centrifugal works a little bit differently. It uses, instead of using vacuum to pull, uses the power of the centrifugal force. So it like spins, really, really spins it round to get it to all the corners. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, just going back to the what you can cast and what you can't cast.
Yeah.
The organic material is fine so long as it will completely burn away. So something like a small pine cone or like sycamore leaves, not sycamore, sycamore seeds, that sort of thing
Yep.
would be perfectly
Yes.
testable.
Yes.
What about?
But also,
Yes, sure.
so just to add to that, with organic materials, sometimes you might need to add a bit of like a varnish to them. Like if they're especially very delicate, like a leaf or whatever it may be. Otherwise, if they're if they're a little bit porous, the investment's just going to seep into it, and it needs to hold its shape. But yes, you can cast organic material.
Okay, but thickness is not a problem. So if you had something that was, I'm thinking of like sycamore seeds, which taper out virtually to nothing, that wouldn't be a problem.
Shouldn't be a problem. Like I say, it's more of the porosity of it, as long as it's able to keep its shape. But touch wood, that should work.
Okay.
Millie,
Yeah.
once you pull the lever, and then the liquid metal goes in, how do you know when it's ready to be taken out and then cooled?
So it's like it pulls down pretty instantly. So I would like maybe count 3 seconds and then it's done.
It's that quick. Okay. Yeah.
Then close it. Then I would like switch everything off and open up the bottom section, and the top will be like glowing bright, like red hot or white hot. It's super hot.
Yeah.
It then needs to cool a little bit. So maybe give it about 10 minutes or so, where when we've annealed something and we're looking for it to turn dull cherry red in color.
Yeah.
That's the same color that we're looking for on the button on the top. When that's not white hot, when that's red, dull red, then I can quench it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
But yeah.
And that, I was going to say, that came up very nicely on the video, where you could actually see the white hot metal as it came out the kiln, and then when you took the flask out and laid it aside, you could see the metal button go down to cherry red.
Yeah. It takes about 10 minutes, and or can be longer if it's a bigger flask. Like the smaller flask will be 10 minutes, the bigger will be a bit longer. But you quench it when it's still hot. So like saw with the video, like it's pretty noisy.
Millie, can I just ask, after you've quenched it, do you just break it out of the mould to get the copper out? Or...
Yeah, so the process of quenching it is turning the investment into like a slurry. It basically dissolves it.
Okay.
So it like the flask, the metal, will release itself, and then I will just take it out, and then it will take the exact form as of what it was in the wax tree. It will now be a metal tree. Yes, like going back to what I was saying about the accurate weights and that, like as we were describing in the video, you need to add extra. So add 10% when you was adding on the weight for the button. That button's quite important to remember about. And yeah, the weights are dependent on what type of metal you're using. So we're using copper, so that's why it's times by 8.9. But if it was silver, it'd be times by about 10. If it's aluminium, it's so much lighter, it's times by about 2 or 3. So it's each metal is different. It's got its own properties.
Can I ask a question? So, if you were doing this, like if it was your business, what would you then do with if you're using silver or gold or something, then you have a tree that is, you're not, that part has the metal and you're not using it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I think, I don't know the proper answer to that, but
Yeah.
I would assume that part of it would be reused.
You could reuse that. Yeah. No, I was just thinking about how economical it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's even in industry, like they would sprue a lot of models on, like it'd be really like it. They're very space consuming, or whatever the word is. Like it's like got 100 models on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would maybe outweigh the. Yeah. Okay. I just wondered.
Yeah. Yeah. Have we got any other questions about the process? No? Okay. I think that was everything. Oh, I just wanted to say, so those this is more like industrial processes, what you'd find in industry with vacuum casting and centrifugal casting. But there are other ways to cast that I just wanted to say the names of so that we were aware of them. So there's cuttlefish casting, which is like a single piece mold from a cuttlefish, and then there's also sand casting, also known as Delft clay casting, and again that would be more for single use molds. Like we were saying, like this is to make this economical. This is done when you've got lots to cast. But yeah.
Yes. So I was going to say, Millie, that would be a good, this one, which is essentially raised surfaces but flat on the back. That you could actually use just on the open mold method, presumably.
I mean, you could, but both of the cuttlefish and the sand casting are closed molds still.
Yep.
So, like I guess you could, like we said before, you could probably do it open, but then you would have a lot of issues of cleaning up the back because it wouldn't be properly flat. It would be a bit bumpy. But yeah. So, so next week, what I wanted to talk to you guys about was multiples. So we'll just have a chat about that, how we would go about making multiples of the waxes.
Yes,
but yeah,
that was going to be the next question, because after having spent 4 days carving a small leopard, I won't say I'm reluctant to actually trust you to make sure it casts properly and things like that, but I'm very, very aware that this is a one-off that I've made here, and if I ever wanted to have more than one for that amount of time, I'd want someone repeating it.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's good to know about how we would make multiples. It's with a different type of mold from the investment one. But yeah, I'll go more into depth on that, on how we would do it next week. But yeah.
I was going to say, you forgot to mention the sling type, or the slingshot type mold or casting process, which I teenager was very exciting.
I don't know much about that one myself, but yeah, there are some crazy ones that you can use. I feel a bit nervous about swinging things around myself. Metal.
Yeah, it's essentially it's a centrifugal way, but on the end of a string.
Yeah, without machine. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll leave it there for today. If we're all good with, if we've not got any more questions. But again, I'm only an email away. If anyone wants to ask me anything or have a chat, just let me know. But I will leave it there, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.